Hey, good evening. Hey, good evening, everybody. Hey, good evening, everybody. I want to finally take the time and share a story that I've been writing for the past maybe 6 or 7 years, and kind of throw it out there and see what you guys think. It's a very interesting story. I've thrown this out. A lot of my influences come from um, I'm gonna. I want to. Good. Hey guys, I finally want to kind of tell you a story that I've been writing for a long time and see what you guys think. And a huge part of the lesson of the story, um, and it's a pretty epic, pretty amazing kind of fantasy, sci-fi, but also reality story. It bridges the gaps between imagination and reality. Um, but the main part of this story and the main lesson is to not keep those stories locked inside when it can be helpful and beneficial to people. So that's why, people would say, "Oh, you're taking a risk by just putting a YouTube video out there to share the ideas because people could take it." Um, but part of it, just recently met somebody um, who, talked about signing a non-disclosure agreement. This is a verbal non-disclosure agreement that nobody would take this idea without giving full credit to myself. So, you got to learn the business side of things on one part. Um, you know, because I'll sue your ass, or if I have to, um, for sure. And it would be a legal document saying, this is not your idea. This is not your story. Um, but anyway, guys, that's the stupid part, but that's the legal part of it. Um, but what this story actually is, it goes into government, it goes into the imagination, it goes into music. It involves extraterrestrial, the dream world, the Lycan culture, the tribal culture, the free culture, the people of the land, versus people who are trying to control the mind, the media and the politics and everything. It gets into a lot of stuff. Um, and the way this story can be marketed, and this movie can be marketed either as a miniseries or a movie, is basically the people, you guys, the audience, help to write or finish this story or continue this story, or continue this series. It kind of becomes a choose your own adventure, where we vote, kind of like politics in a way. We vote for what happens next. We vote for what we want to see next. There'll be twists and turns thrown in there, and then people have to kind of revote again, like, oh, well, I didn't know this was part of this story. So um, that's something to consider too. And then you kind of move forward, and it's a voting system. So the marketing for it is really cool and interesting because, um, and actually the marketing part for this story and this movie goes into reality, where the marketing teams go out into the country, and they kind of if I can describe it best, kind of like a dinner theater, movie theater, dinner theater, where the parts are played out in reality, but it becomes part of the movie, and it becomes a part of a way to market the movie itself or the TV show. So it gets really interesting, and the more people participate, the more likely they are to be part of the movie or a part of the series as an extra, or heck, even as people auditioning. It's about unlocking dreams and being an actor or a singer, and it's your chance to show your skills and bring new fresh faces to Hollywood or TV, television. So it gets into a lot, um, and part of it too is also the more effort, because this movie is about enlightenment and enlightenment of the human consciousness, the soul, the enlightenment of creativity, understanding that creativity and creation and building bridges challenge ourselves intellectually and stimulating the mind to bring better solutions to the world and to the country and to each other, working with each other, building bridges. That's a basic premise of this whole thing is a movie to actively get people participating but giving you the incentives to do so. So when eventually the resumes, in theory, um, when you put in your resume for the movie, you also have to include, say, like videos of how you've helped other people, how you've helped the needy, how you've helped reach out to other people, what you've done creatively to solve solutions in your own local community, and that kind of gets you a step up to be a qualified person to be in this movie. So it gives, in a way, it's kind of like a lottery, but you're giving yourselves more and more chances to become part of something big. So the incentive becomes there. And I hope you guys really like this concept. It's not something that's not really been done before because, you audition, you go in, you just have one chance to show your acting skills. Um, but this is kind of building more character onto it because as you start to audition and everything, you start building your character to become more authentic in the movie. Um, and there's all kinds of characters that are needed. You have like I said, the tribal culture, the free spirits, the hippies. You have the military, the people that are fighting for freedom, the patriotic people. You have the stuffy, brown nosing. I don't know if they. Those are the people to watch out for, I guess. But you have the free spirits. You have those people that just have authenticity to their character. Um, so. Um, So let me get into the premise of what this story is. And when I began writing it um, back in 2010, the basic story of it was a love story between a DJ on Earth and an extraterrestrial who was very curious about human beings, about our culture, about music especially. Think about an outsider, an extraterrestrial out in space, and what music sounds to them, and how it draws or inspires and it triggers something, and then also brings into question, if there's life on another planet, do they have music, and what does music sound like? And music goes into a lot of things with frequencies, algorithms, symphony, um, octave, and beats and everything like that. So a big part of this movie is music becomes the groundbreaking, breaking the barriers of language between species that cannot connect in different ways. And this also goes on a universal level here on Earth too. Um, so I hope this kind of piques some interest with you guys. Um, and Because originally the story is, he's a DJ. He has his own studio, his own apartment. Kind of isolated, alone in his own world of imagination. That's a typical artist mind, a free spirit. Um, and he paints pictures. He creates music. He's a DJ for like local clubs. Just a local club scene or um, festivals, music festivals, simple things like that. And and when he's painting, while he's painting and listening to music, somehow he has this experience, this phenomenal experience of enlightenment. And I say somehow, and what I mean somehow, this movie gets more real too. He's smoking weed, he's getting into the music, he's getting into the painting, and then just all of a sudden he's like shot out of a rocket. Something happens and is triggered into um, into tunnel vision, into this awe-inspiring visual of spirituality and the possibilities of integrating love, light, magic, music, and everything into this world. But what happens when he has that experience is that shockwave of him bolting out into space was sent out into space. And out in space, there's this other queen planet. It's kind of a struggling planet. There's a little bit of famine. There's a queen, and they look very much like humans, except the way I envisioned it, their eyes are blue and green color, so they're very similar, um, but they have the spiritual enlightenment part already. But there's a whole different. It's almost like a small fraction of a difference of this planet. So it's like a sister planet to this planet. Um, but this queen is meditating up in her tower. How can she help her people? How can she help a dying planet? And it is on the brink of civil war and things like that. And she's meditating out in this tower, and just woof, that vision just comes, and she catches the vision of that, and it's like this wave of love, and it's something that is unfamiliar because it's speaking a different language. Um, so what she does is she sends a well, she sends another extraterrestrial down to investigate, another male extraterrestrial. Um, and this gets really interesting too, to open and free the mind about. It gets into a lot of really cool topics. Um, it's sci-fi fantasy, but what happens is he's forbidden to interact with the DJ, but he's sent to investigate the DJ to see what this is, where it's coming from, and how it was achieved. So it gets really interesting and cool because you see it in the background. Um, well, for example, there'd be a point where the extraterrestrial he goes, I need to shift. What's the word? And what's cool too is he's a shapeshifter too. So he looks different in different scenes, and this is what's really cool for the audience as well, as the story itself is a mystery to be solved, because you're not going to quite know exactly what happened, how it happened, and how it was achieved, because different people's perspective is going to give a completely different story of what they believe happened. So there'll be scenes like where the DJ is spinning in the nightclub, and there'll be somebody passing in the background, and what you won't realize is the same person that looks different is passing by in different scenes. Um, and Oh, but then the third thing that gets really interesting too, and this is where it comes down to. This is where the tension starts to build, is when this DJ had this experience. Um, he experiences it, and Queen Planet experiences it, but at the same time, it triggered some sort of electrical default that was detected in the atmosphere, and the U.S. government is interested in what it is too. So not only so they come to investigate who is this person, what's his prerogative, and they're not sure, and they don't know quite how to approach it. They don't know how to approach the situation because he's a non-threatening person, but something happened that was unexplainable as a phenomenon, um, and so it gets very interesting. Like the basic premise of that part of it too is what happens when a very controlled environment like the U.S. government, especially the very secretive parts of it that want to control and suppress and brainwash and everything, get exposed to something um, more interesting and more uh, reasonable and more um, weightlifting and less endangering than they'd ever thought or expected. So it's kind of like what happens. I'll go further into this um, later, I guess, but what happens when the secretive part, what happens when the United States government taps a mind that brings spiritual enlightenment from the government within and spreads out from the deepest and the seediest parts of government and spreads outward. You know, a lot of people think it's always closing in one way or spreading out another way. But what if in the deepest and the seediest parts of government, something happens and people realize, well, damn, we've been in lockdown, we've been in, you know, you have people are being blackmailed in government, people are being um, killed, or you know, everything like that, for certain reasons. And what this reason uh, but there becomes an answer to reduce endangerment and to reduce that need for control. So it's a very, very um, strong opposition to people who want control, but then they're going to realize that by letting go of control, they're going to have more control of their own lives within their own. Um, you know, there's that basic understanding where nobody wants to die on their deathbed, knowing that they had this opportunity to seize the opportunity to become something greater and to become a hero, even if they've been a villain all their life. They become the hero and become something great and amazing, that people can look up to. Um, in a way, forgiving a lot of mistakes and having amnesty for, you know, a lot of bad things in government have happened, but this is a chance to finally and to stop being afraid of actually changing the world, um, and seeing the potential for each individual person to become that person they always wanted to be when they were younger, before they even got caught up in the system, before they got caught up in professionalism, before they got caught up in their career. That vision that they had of what the future should be is possible now, and it's their chance to become part of that. Um, and it's a very there's heroes, there's anti-heroes, there's, you know, twists and turns you never know, because in government, manipulation is huge, huge. Like, people will manipulate the crap out of each other so much that they don't understand they're manipulating themselves. um, and then of course, this goes into intuition too. um, just the slightest little twitch or slightest little motion um, can cue somebody in as to which way they're coming from. So they have to suppress and hide that and adapt and evolve and everything. So it becomes very, very interesting to, you know, sometimes people act like the villain because they're the good guys and they want to make sure that this whole thing goes through and becomes safe, for people in the future. Um, and there's also the bad guys who are trying to play good because they want to be on the good side of things, just so they can screw everything over and still have control. You know, so it gets into a lot of stuff. Um, but it uh, so back to the language barrier. This kind of clues you into what the end of this, um, the tension is going to build and build between the characters and the endangerment, and it's going to be thrilling. It's going to be adrenaline rush and everything. You know, coming down to the wire that, you know, the clock is ticking kind of thing. But just cluing you into what the ending I feel should be, and this is kind of the way I wrote it, is that language barrier becomes broken when, you know, we've always seen the movies where extraterrestrials are here to destroy the planet, and of course our government would be afraid, you know, that they're superior in intelligence and weaponry and everything, um, and there's that whole paranoia and that fear within our own government. So I think they put fear into us, and it just gets into a whole lot of um, lessons about fear, what to fear, what not to fear. So in the very end of this movie, what happens is there's about to be literally an all-out war. Things are getting heated, an all-out war, and but a phenomenon happens around the world where we become intercepted, where something from above, you know, extraterrestrials come down in different areas, and bring their version of what music is, and bring their language and bring their technology of visualizations, basically unlocking the imagination of the world, and unlocking the potential of building bridges with a language barrier, kind of leaving a final how do I put this, like a light show across the planet that is synchronized with beats, with rhythm, with sound, somewhat unfamiliar to us, but at the same time, it comes from a place of love, and it comes from a place of spirituality. And then there's a light show with the clouds, much opposite of Independence Day. Um, and it's something just beautiful, you know, visuals, like projected things onto clouds, projected um, shapes, and understanding that this is our version of our world, and we're sharing it with you. And then they bring the music, and then they all just disappear, and we never see or hear from them again. But it just paralyzed the world to understand there's something more out there that we don't understand. And this goes even into the realm of just understanding that construct of religion, and what religion's right, and spirituality, what's right, what's wrong. This is just kind of saying, okay, this is a completely unidentified version of love, um, and it was beautiful, and it was amazing. And what is it? I don't know, and we probably never will know. But we know this is what we like, you know, and it's kind of that basic concept. And and that's okay. So and again, I said this was a love story. What happens is this extraterrestrial actually, because extraterrestrials are very intelligent, very loving, very kind, but also understand the whole spectrum of fear of humanity, because they've been here before in the past. You know, that's you talk about, it brings in a lot of the history of sightings and things like that. Whether you believe or not, it doesn't matter. Um, and it could have happened, could not. But but anyway, so this becomes a love story of perhaps extraterrestrials have been here, but they have abandoned us because well, we're not living up to our expectations. We're kind of heading for doom. So we're kind of abandoned, and in a way, but um, there's this seed of hope kind of comes, and there becomes this attraction, this magnetic. Okay, so back to the love story, and this goes into the love in this movie. Is a whole spectrum too. The love of people, even the love of your brotherhood, the love of a partner, the love of family, the love of even our enemies, and our enemies finding love within their friends and their foes, and this whole, it gets into a lot of amazing things, guys. Um, and comes down to what's important. But this love story is a very sexy, very intriguing story between this DJ and this extraterrestrial. I wrote in a, it gets into lots of stuff too, because you also have the FBI coming into it, and there's a certain thing about being attracted to, um, well, admiration. You know, people have admiration and attraction to admiration, intelligence, and music and things, and it gets into a whole slew of separate stories. So after this movie is written and put out there, then you'll have like a whole different story for every fraction within the story. It's like basically the you know how you have sequels and everything. This is kind of like the base structure of one movie, and then there'll be all kinds of stories, like literally anybody from anywhere, from any culture, from any situation, from any view, would have their own perspective of what happened from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, and what they learned from it, and a movie can be made from that. It'll be a completely different story, but it's still based around the same um, the same um, the enlightenment and the same fear and the same nightmare and getting past that nightmare and how they achieved it. So, and like I said, when like the actors, the whole competition to be in the background or the actors. Here's what's important about the movie too is instead of just having people being directed to walk behind, go over here, do this, do that. You actually give each, and this gets into details, micromanaging a little bit, but it'll make it much more authentic and much more realistic. Where um, each person in the background actually has um, a character development and a story, and they're interacting with somebody else who's kind of experiencing the same thing of the main characters, or they're talking about, or they bump into somebody, or like things would be going on in the background where it's interesting and intriguing. You don't know what's going on, but you know it's part of a bigger story. So that's clues in a lot of people to um, um, not focusing on the main characters all the time. That even some of because you understand um, like a reaction of somebody um, in the background later ends up becoming a trigger for something that happens for the main character later in the story, and vice versa. So there's a synchronicity in understanding how people are connected, and the actions that we take do have an effect on people we don't even know. So it gets into a lot of really cool things, um, and I hope you guys like that idea. Um, so, so now, guys. This is a shout out to my inspiration for so many things since the beginning of time. Literally since the beginning, before I even knew that I could draw or sketch drawings, I was drawing pictures of gremlins, saying Chad playing with gremlins, and there's a picture of Gizmo. And I don't even remember uh, drawing those pictures, which is funny. I don't even remember seeing the whole thing of the movie. Um, but Steven Spielberg has been a huge influence from when I was younger. I always wanted to be a director when I was younger, and I was a writer. I wrote a lot of stories when I was younger. I kind of fell out of it later because I kind of dove into the painting and the music and things like that. So this is kind of bringing everything back. And he's had some really cool speeches lately about never allowing anybody to oppress or hold you to the status quo. The people. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but never let anybody tell you you're crazy or you're wrong or your imagination is not valuable. And when I was younger too, I'll show you this. I cherish this. I had wrote like it was a sequel for Gremlins. It was Gremlins 3, and I sent in the script and drawings and everything. It's kind of a silly version of Gremlins 3, but what I got back was this autograph picture saying "Best wishes, Steven Spielberg," um, which is very very cool, and I loved it when I was younger. And you can see there are coffee stains on it because I brought it with me everywhere that I worked. I brought it with me through college, so I did get coffee stains on it. But that's kind of the personality of artists, I suppose. Um, and what's interesting is, and now as an adult, it means more um, to me when I looked at this and I looked at this signature. Like, is this actually his signature here? Is this actually authentic? Because sometimes people might copy it, or they might could be a receptionist or something. Just saying best wishes, Steven Spielberg. But but then I looked at the marker, and it's like the marker is running out. It wasn't like a machine doing it, and it has a different sheen to it. Um, so then, like, it was just this like, wow, this could actually be his signature. And that, like, when we're living in a world so much right now of fake of being distracted and fake this or fake that, the authenticity of that signature would be so amazing, whether it is or not. If it is, that would mean so much, and that'd be so cool. Because this is like the signature of my one of my biggest influences when I was younger, and that means a lot to me. It really does. Um, and I've been a fan of um, his of a really long time. Um, and you know the cinema. There's so much about movies that is expanding the imagination and expanding our minds. We gotta. I still think we gotta. This is just me ranting, but we gotta get away from the recycled stuff. We gotta have more original ideas. More original ideas instead of recycling things, making sequels of things, making remakes of things. Come on, guys, we're better than we're much better than that. We act as if we are we're not unlimited in creativity, um, and that's kind of to me that's embarrassing when you're oh what's coming out this year, oh it's this number three, or it's a remake of this, or it's um, I don't know, it's anyway. Um, so and then the character development in the story is very intriguing and interesting too, because it gets down to actual personalities, and there's something funny, um, and in a way embarrassing. There could be a comedy portion to this, because it kind of gets down to um, you know, highly intelligent, sophisticated professionals trying to disprove something, but it becomes embarrassing because of the source of the person. He's just an awkward dude, a very realistic person, not your typical hero, um, and um, it becomes an embarrassment on a lot of levels because he's. Um, I think I'm talking more about myself now. um, but the character development now, guys. Um, I can go. What's helped me, what's very interesting about this story, you guys, really have to understand this, is and maybe I could get into detail, um, but when I started writing this story, I did not have the villain. I did not have the person who's getting in the way of this DJ and this extraterrestrial from bringing this enlightenment and understanding of energy and everything, because I felt there was a need for one. I felt this was just a really great feel good love story about creativity and everything, and that's the kumbaya tra la la. You know, it probably wouldn't do well in Hollywood. So ironically, you know, it gets into lots, guys. Ironically, um, first of all, I had met a woman in a bookstore, um, who all of when developing this story, I came up with some very rich material that is important to put into the story. But what's funny is half of the things that will be inserted into the movie are actually things that I experienced, that witnessed, and people that I came, you know, stories that I went through, um, and like for example, one of them. This is really cool. When I started writing this story, heck, even this movie could be a story about the DJ writing a story, and then it would kind of create this like this mind blowing, bringing the imagination really actually into reality. And I think that's what the government would be afraid of, is it would create like a wormhole or something into the imagination to unleash the imagination. And this goes into the dream world too. Um, the dream world is really important too, because when we think about it, we have turmoil, terrorism, destruction, war, everything like that. The media, social media, bullying, problems at work, problems with family, problems with friends. So we have that external stuff, that really gets to us and weighs us down and weighs us down and just kind of brings us down, right? Um, so then when we fall asleep, it's almost that kind of goes, it inverts, and you can go to a safe place. You become free of judgment. You're free to have your imagination run wild. A lot of people have, you know, me personally, when I go to sleep, I'm lucky enough that I do go to the place where this world is being built. Like there are thousands of people building, hustling, and bustling, and building this beautiful world, this beautiful vision, different cities, different stories, different atmospheres, different characteristics to different areas. Um, and you're just like, I'm just walking around witnessing and stopping, talking, chatting with some people, witnessing like a fantastic idea for a museum, or an interactive museum, or interactive entertainment, or new ways of looking at things. And I just kind of go around, and this is where I go to dream. And what's also cool is, personally, sometimes you have dreams about meeting your favorite celebrities, right? But when I do, and I don't know if anybody else has it's the same thing, but when I do it, there's no awe-inspiring, like, oh my God, it's this person. It's more of a, we already know each other on a certain level, that we're friends, we understand, we're there just to kind of chat, like two actual friends who have no judgment against each other. Um, and it's interesting because then, like, even the reactions of some of them, and I'll wake up and I'll think about it and be like, that kind of could be the way these people actually are, if they didn't have to pretend in front of the camera, or have to worry about the paparazzi and things like that. um, but also, what this comes down to, the dream world, I don't want to compare it. It's not comparable to the Matrix, but it's more the dream world as a place where people go who want to share information, who want to find other people, and they're free to do it without the obstruction of technology or judgment or anything like that. You're just kind of it's a freelance plane to explore, and pass along information, even information that you don't speak, kind of like, two computers like switching intelligence and information with each other. And it's a really cool concept, I think, where you're trying to find your tribes, and you're trying to collect your tribes, and you don't know how to do it in the real world. So you kind of, when you go to sleep, you're actively doing it, but you don't quite remember all that when you wake up. So it just gets into a lot of really interesting things. You know, and and then all right, so what this movie? There's got to be a kick-ass woman character. Like a mother, like a mama bear. Just a kick-ass. When I think of the character, I think of like this older generation. Uh, Kind of like, one character would be kind of a stuffy Betsy DeVoe kind of character. She's stuffy, but then she wakes up to this idea that there's something so much more kick ass in this world, and she's like, I freaking love it. Like, she just begins to lose it, and lose that wanting to have self control or control over other things, and she just watching that spirit uplift inside of somebody who's just too controlling and too controlled, or too conservative in a way of thinking, and too linear thinking, expanding the consciousness. And I think that's a really great character. Um, and she would be a lot of, probably involved with the FBI, or politicians. And there's also a lot opportunity to have a politician. Um, Another character of it was, when the FBI starts to get involved in the CIA. I have the underground government, I guess, where a lot of corporations and everything are funding and whatnot. But rumors start to spread. So then there's this multimillionaire, this mystery person that nobody quite knows who he is, or they just know he has a lot of money and a lot of influence. And somehow that the rumors get spread from this DJ and what he's trying to accomplish, and there's a potential to completely expand and do something great for the world. Um, and then it comes these rumors kind of spread through the CIA, the FBI, through different people. But the trick of it is when rumors are spread, there's somebody cutting off here. They'll badger and they'll spread bad lies about this person just because they want to brown nose up to the person above them, and so on and so forth. So never. It's almost like that game, um, where you whisper something. Um, the revolution of awesomeness is approach. I don't know that um, the telephone game. That's what I'm trying to say. The telephone game. But when it gets to somebody else, they're like, oh, this person came up with a great idea, but he's a criminal. He's a bad guy. Blah blah blah. So we can easily just take care of him, assassinate him, or so I don't know, or put him in jail or something like that. And I should probably leave that part out because it's irrelevant. But there's a lot of brown nosers, a lot of fakers, a lot of liars, and when it comes down to it, too. Um, we think about people who lie, they cheat, they steal to win the votes or to win the appraisal of somebody, and that's basically because they know that they don't have their own confidence, and if it was done correctly and done by free will and done by truth, that they would lose. So that's the main part of it too, is trying to get the actual message and the true message to the right people at the right time for the right reasons, and cutting out any liars um, or people trying to negotiate at this very moment. So no matter what, my story has to be told. I got to put this out on the internet because, um, you know, there's a lot of deception in the world. I myself, back in 2011, there's this thing called the Freedom Movement. It was this great story, that corruption's going to be taken out and everybody's going to be arrested that's behind corruption. And they feed everybody, they bring everybody to this freedom movement. And then as soon as that happens, they all of a sudden switch the channels and they start talking about entrapment and mind control and blah 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 and fears and nightmares and oh, we got new information, guys, we're all in trouble, we're all going to be in turmoil, we're all going to be um you know and so that actually happened to me. And the mind control, the brain control thing, this gets into a lot too about schizophrenia and paranoia. But as soon as I had contacted that person, who anyway, then I started to experience what I could only describe as hearing sound waves from anything that was vibrating around me. It wasn't an internal thing. I heard sound waves from, like, if you have a ceiling fan or if you have a fan blowing, you would hear other people talking and saying things and saying words that you don't know the definition of. So then you have to look it up, or they'll be like, well, you're fucking with the wrong person. And you're like, wait, what? Um, and that's not something you would say to yourself. Your unconscious would say to yourself. Um, and I've experienced some pretty crazy things where, um, when again, this goes into, is it schizophrenia, or is this thing really actually exists? And the thing is the person that I contacted, basically that whole group of people, they're the ones advocating and saying the mind control exists and everything. But what is mind control? And it's just a repetition of words to try and get people to believe something that is untrue. Um, and so it's my responsibility to break free from any of that. Even my psychologists and things, they did investigating. They said this was kind of a shady group of people. Stay away from them. And I'm trying to, but they kind of won't leave me alone. They're kind of attached to a gay man and trolling him for some reason. Not controlling, but just trolling. Um, um, what was I going to say? Um, Oh, so basically, we have a fear-based society and conservative people. So what's crazy about this whole thing is that the biggest nightmare for the opposition to the free-minded people who want the environment to be saved, who want free energy, who want to be liberal with life and the freedom to live our lives as pleased, but at the same time punishing those people that put endangerment into people by putting toxins and war for unnecessary reasons into people. So those opposition, those people that have all their money invested in corporations, all that stuff, wouldn't it be crazy if like their biggest actual fear was a gay man, just one gay man, maybe a few people, but one gay man is one of the biggest threats to these people. It'd be kind of embarrassing, especially coming from a goofball like myself who works at Dunkin' Donuts for 7.50 an hour, who is um, because the conservative mind, they always want to blame, and I guess I have to put on top of that, a gay man having a spiritual experience that basically has gone unchallenged so far as the way of thinking and solving the problems. Um, this video is going to be shared worldwide, but what? See, there's another thing too. Sometimes I hear them talking, and I kind of channel when I'm hearing it. I kind of repeat what they're saying. If it gets shared worldwide, then I guess that would be proof. Then I guess, tricky, tricky. I guess that would freak everybody out, wouldn't it? To be like, did he just say that from his imagination, or was he just actually channeling? Because you think about this, guys. If you have a cell phone, um, part of you is listening to somebody, and part of you is processing, and then part of it is expressing. And if you're trying to listen to something and you're trying to interpret and express something, it comes out. It goes into a lot of stuff too. Um, well, that would creep me out. That would creep a lot of people out, I guess. I guess it's um, but anyway, so um, and when it comes when it comes down to this real world and dream world and unlocking the imagination, to finally use our imagination to spark an economy, spark culture, spark building bridges across the planet, and reinvesting in everything that is constructive instead of destructive, and understanding that's a much healthier choice for everybody. Um, but at this current moment, whether you believe that or not, consider the what I said about the dream world, and when you go to bed, because there's a lot of interesting people and celebrities, like there's some validity. You've never met these people before, you've never seen them before, but you have actual human interactions with these people, um, and it's so legit and so real and so authentic that it's like, where is this coming from? And are we actually on a plane of and different people could be on different planes. So if we kind of open this door to the plane of where everybody is constructing and everything, that gives everybody a place to want to go to. You know what I mean? And this the storm. Oh, here's a part about this too. Was that in the movie, the script, the DJ, he paints a storm, this picture of the storm, that's one painting, and there's a duplicate of it, um, which gets into more craziness. Um, but everybody, like the DJ, he'll be, a scene I thought I was just a typical one where he's standing in line at checkout at like Rite Aid or something, and then there's a mother with her children, and a friend, like her daughter's friend with her, and the daughter starts bringing up this dream she had, about a storm, and then somebody else hears her say that and say, I had something similar too. It sounds a lot like what I was talking about because it was green clouds, and green represents um, for symbolism. It represents healing and heart, and earth. It's kind of an epic, somewhat not menacing, but like an epic storm, a powerful storm. So some people might be afraid of it. It just depends on how you interpret it. But the storm is actually like the storm of imagination coming into an unconsciousness so that it can be brought into the real world. And then once people in the movie start waking up that this storm is being dreamt about by so many people, it kind of starts confirming things, and it starts becoming a bigger and bigger story. Like, what's going on, guys? That becomes part of the media, and it just gets really interesting and really cool because it layers a lot of different things. Like I said, there's so many stories going on at the same time, but they're all reaching the same point. And there's different ways that each people get to the end, um, but it opens the doors for so many stories to be told. And even your story and your friend's story or somebody else who's going through a lot of pain and suffering, this is the opportunity to share our stories of the struggles we've gone through and the storms we've gone through, to achieve something greater than ourselves. So that's very important. And the crazy thing about this video is if this movie, um, this script, this this TV series was made, um, phenomenon like those miracles and stuff, I think really would start to happen. Like we would start realizing the coincidences and the synchronicity, and not just your lives, but the lives of other people that people have crossed paths before. We just didn't know it, and we'll become more and more connected in new ways and in innovative ways, and it would become like the reverse of paranoia. It would be the familiarity, not the paranoia of the unknown, but the celebration of the new known. The new understanding that there's more out there. Um, and so maybe some people would fear that, but those people that fear that got to stop trying to control that, and they got to let go and understand that that is the most uplifting and most achievement of winning the challenge of life, of what we're supposed to understand, that we're here to create, we're here to build, we're here to work with one another, and let go of any of our differences, because it is for the future of the world. It is for the future. It is everybody working together, every class, every fraction, every culture, every race, every religion, every gender identity, every um, um, I think I mean that's the basic premise of it. Every belief, every political belief, what's working for us, it's just that achievement, that um, finally letting go of all those distractions and saying we're done with the distractions because we're choosing this is a better option for a lot of us, and we're going to be able to live those dreams, have that restaurant that we always wanted. Because people right down the block, they want a restaurant too, and we just decided and realized that I'm a chef, they're a chef, their daughter wants to be a waiter, their a cousin wants to be a DJ. Oh my God, we can just basically rent out this place right down the road and build our own dreams right in the local neighborhood. And then it goes on to higher and higher levels too of franchises and bars and nightclubs and entertainment venues and places that all have the same purpose of feeding back into the community and feeding the hungry, and feeding the veterans and taking care of the veterans and taking care of healthcare, using entertainment and the collective achieving, by achieving, by making the greatest achievements in humanity, we get rewarded for those achievements, and we should reward ourselves for that. But we got to learn how to stop being so selfish and so ungrateful as a country, and you know, take care of those people that we need to, and each other. Um, so anyway, guys, there's more stories here. You know, I'm half involved with the conspiracy where somebody disappeared after I just sent him a video about just describing this story and this painting, and then he basically, right before he left, he had the description, or he put a wolf out there, and then he had a description of a painting. Well, he had a description of Atlantis, and it was a description of that painting. And he's, anyway, you never know what's actually going on. You never know. The people that you meet and the information that other people give you. There's a lot of people who told me right off the bat, like FBI, because the guy just, he didn't disappear. He was actually, um, something happened and his face was disfigured. He was poisoned. Nobody could have, his face was unrecognizable. And the more, and it gets into a government conspiracy, guys. You know, is this guy alive? And anytime I told this story to somebody like the FBI, their first instinct was, well, do you think he's still alive? And after that was their first instinct, I'm kind of like, well, yeah, maybe, yeah. And that's what my instincts were before. Um, so that's a little scary too, especially when they're um, little on the homophobic side, and you sent the email to them, just, and they're all talking about demasculating, everything demasculating, and here we are going towards war. And people said they tend to steal information and they're vampires. But the way I see it is, if you gain your power from somebody else who you claim to be demasculating society, and your power comes from them, by pointing that out on camera and saying that to the camera, that if you take any actions against me, that basically you decided that you're the pussy of the whole situation, that your power comes from somebody who understands that a free will and the free man, who speaks his heart and speaks his mind and understands that spiritual enlightenment is way more important than stabbing anybody in the back, or hurting him or anybody he knows and his family, just because you want to stay a man, because you got whored out to a corporation, um, you know, because your mind was so melded and controlled. Um, I guess I got to back off from that. But you got to call it out as it is, guys. You don't get bullied around. You don't let anybody bully you around or take your dreams and try to become somebody they're not. If anything happens to me in the future, it's those people that are going to be, oh, I felt so bad for Chad. Oh, he's such a great person. He's such a great person. I want people, my family, and my friends to stay away from the, you know, be careful and be cautious for those kind of people because they want, anyway. I know how the world works, especially in government. Um, so those kind of people can go fuck themselves, because the whole plan with this freedom movement was to stand up against a corporation, and then they pose as a fake corporation who wants to terrorize people such as myself, and then lie to continue to do so, to see how I figured out my way out of the situation because of my creativity, my creative mind, and my spiritual know-how. And then for them to fake, you know, oh, this is my idea, this is the idea I came up with. um, I'm such a brilliant person, I'm such a, my high IQ is so amazing, and to dump all of their shit and their issues onto me so that they can feel so much better, in the future, and be the fake hero or whatever. I don't know, it's into a lot, but um, yeah, I'm pissed. I want recognition for being a gay man that had a lot of great ideas and that it's valuable to the world and this country. So I'm gonna leave this part of the video, I guess, but I'll just get back to the rest of the video, put that out there. Um, but the reasonable side of myself understands, you know, evolution is getting past fear, right? That's what these people told me. Getting past fear is evolution. And I know they crave for me to stand up to them, on the super soldier community. But that's not part of it right now. They're begging for attention, and they want to backlash, say I didn't stand up to them. That's not sharing the right information to the right people and getting credit for the right reasons is number one important. Because all you guys talk about was entrapment and backwashing, and just the shit you guys said to me is fucked up. And you know damn well if your family knew what you said to me, they would fucking disown you right away. And I should not have given you guys any fake. I should not have given you guys any admiration in videos or in email, because you guys did not deserve it unless you prove otherwise. People can be twisted. I'm not. I've gone through a lot. Prismatic axiom is the title of this. Prismatic axiom is the name of the story. Because what it is the refraction of light. You know, the prism. When light hits the prism, it shatters into all kinds of colors, and it also bends it at an angle um, to avoid the darkness in the situation. But the light also includes the whole spectrum of light, and it includes different resonance, different levels. The light, the dark, the heavy, the light. Um, the dark side, the good side, everything, but embracing all of that together into the one uniform light that is, and just for the sheer sake of people grow and evolve. I would never. This is continuing the conversation about these other fellows, um, but I would never make 100% claim that these people are stagnant. They are unchanging. They are so stubborn. They're unable to evolve and grow as people. And that I'm not willing to work with those people, and I'm not willing to hear their stories. I want to hear their stories. Of course, I want to hear your stories. Um, of course, I do. Um, we all have to hear those stories in order to come to um, not always a conclusion, but getting closer to the truth. And that's what I want to hear. So I'm not stopping that from happening. I want to hear that. Um, I'm not trying to make you guys sound like villains. I just want you to prove that you're not. That's basically it. Um, that's basically it. Um, I've said some harsh things to these people too, because it's frustrating when things are not happening, and people in this country are starving, they're dying, we're being pushed towards war. Of course, it's frustrating. So I got to put my best foot forward. If you're in the military or if you're in the government and you want to put any blame on me for not stepping up with the creative portion of it, you can go screw yourself, because the part that's going to help a lot of people and for you guys to understand is that you have to sit down at the dinner table with the people you love and reconfigure and figure out what's important. Um, you know damn well that under peer pressure, when you go into work, it's easy to bash or to to be pressured, to be a pushover. Um, but you guys got to understand that all of you are thinking the right thing to do, but none of you are actually moving forward with the right thing to do. Because if some of you, you know, if you're in agreement, by agreeing, it makes you somehow um, less tough. But then I want you to tell your family that, your wife, your kids. You become, you know, demasculated or less tough. You're not aggressive. Something about your manhood has been stripped away because you learn how to use your heart and use your soul and use that love to reach out, to protect the future generations above and below you, you know? I want you guys to seriously explain that to the people you love. Every person that's ever given you motivation, admiration, anybody that you've had admiration for, you know, advice that they've given you, that you know that by going against it and protesting that positive information, that's going to help you, is destroying you guys. Stop bullshitting yourself. Stop faking everything. Um, Stop playing the egos. You know. Um, Again, I'm an artist. I work for 750 an hour. So it is hard for me to get on my feet, especially when I'm being interrogated and harassed 24/7 by a small group of people. That gets very difficult. So any reason to blame myself. And here's the thing: is my free will to say I do not 100% blame these people. I take responsibility for myself, put the best foot forward, and you guys have your own job. You get paid whatever, you know. I'm getting off track. Um, I'm getting off track, but um, how can you guys look at all the people that you admired when you were younger and throughout history, and then become those people that if they knew your side, they would hate you. Anybody would hate you without moving because you refuse to go forward in a direction that reduces war, reduces fear, reduces endangerment, reduces poison, reduces toxins, uplifts free society, uplifts free energy, uplifts the economy, uplifts cultural bridges, uplifts, uh, you know, vanquishes so much around the world that is unnecessary. Anyway, much love, guys.